You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to our deep dive into Season 2, Episode 4 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is entitled The Other Women. This episode is intended for longtime fans of the show, so there will be spoilers. We talk about the show in the context of the show to date, which is through Season 4. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Megan.
Hi, I'm Marigold.
Hi, I'm Yulia.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
And I'm Kate. So obviously this episode focuses so much on June's guilt about many things and the people she's hurt, including Luke's ex-wife, Annie. And it struck me as very notable that she appears to carry much more guilt and remorse about what they did to Annie than Luke ever does. Do we ever see Luke show remorse for how he's hurt Annie? Do you remember?
As far as I can remember, no. I don't think Luke even saw Annie in that cafe with
Right.
when June was holding Hannah. So
Yeah.
my headcanon is that Luke has not shown any.
So that time after they have sex and June asks him to leave his wife, even then there's no guilt over Annie. It's just like, okay, yeah, and so I hadn't thought about it like this until I was really like overthinking the whole June guilt thing. And then, to the phone call in this episode when he is just screaming at her and we find out it's actually a recording, which I thought was kind of interesting because of a future episode when June has to send Luke a recording telling him about her affair. And she is much more guilt-ridden over it, right? I mean, she says this is so hard. She's crying as she's talking. She tells him she loves him. She's being very gentle and loving with him while telling him this thing that she's so guilt-ridden over, right? Even though she loves Nick, she feels terrible about it. So it's interesting because we've got the voice recording that Luke leaves for Annie, which is not nice and not very caring, not caring at all. It's actually just straight up mean and hurtful, even though he's hurt her. I mean, she has been hurt. I understand it happens, but you could take care with a person that you're supposed to love. And he doesn't seem to do that. Anyway, so no guilt in that voice recording. And then there's June's recording about Nick to Luke that is just dripping with guilt and remorse. And we've seen throughout this season, the first couple seasons, when you can tell how much she loves him, but she won't even say it.
Yeah.
And that is a function of her guilt and remorse over Luke. So it's just interesting. I hadn't thought about it before, but now that this episode is so soaked in June's guilt, I thought it was very notable, the difference in their feelings towards their exes. And Fred too. Fred has no remorse over sleeping with the handmaid instead of Serena.
No, definitely not.
None. He's just I think when she confronts him, he's just I forget, but it's dismissive, basically. Not at all oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think I also was thinking about, June's guilt. And like you said, I think it was season 2, episode 9, when Nick returns from Canada and he tells June, Luke loves you, all the other info.
Yeah.
I think that she just felt so guilty that she felt like she couldn't tell Nick that she loved him in that moment.
Right.
He just told her that his, her husband loves her, and then
never stop. Yeah.
I don't know. So.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because it even seems like Nick understands that when he tells her I love you and goes to kiss her cheek. He doesn't. He's being very respectful of her space, and he's just saying I know this is a lot to take in. I love you. I'm going.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool and respectful of you. And he felt guilt at the bar. He was struggling. Yeah, he was struggling over how and what to tell Luke, but wanting to give him information.
Yeah.
And he wasn't he wasn't there not to help Luke either. Like he wanted to tell her that she was okay, and something that he should know that she was pregnant. And the script says, like, there's actually that scripted scene you can see online of the scene, which I love, because it says that Nick is feeling like so much guilt over trying to decide what and how to tell him,
Okay.
obviously.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, I just think that everyone, Nick and June have both felt a lot of guilt and remorse over the Luke situation.
Yeah. And
June especially.
yeah, definitely. And even in season 1, episode 5, when June and Nick are having sex for the very first time with Serena in the room, he says, "So why does this time feel like I'm cheating on Luke?" And at that point, she thought that Luke was still dead. So I think it's interesting that even though, she thinks her husband's dead, she still has this guilt.
Yeah.
Whereas, and she's in this place that, like, I kind of feel like she resisted her feelings towards Nick for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think because she just had this guilt over it.
Right. And then in is it 8 where they open up like cuddling?
Yeah.
And her voiceover there has guilt laced into it as well. Like, I'm a bad person. If I were a better person, I wouldn't be coming back here. Yeah, it's just a recurring theme that I'm sure she's still feeling. I mean, yes, obviously we can see in season 4 that she's trying to like do what she's supposed to do with Luke, even though you see in episodes 9 and 10 that she still feels she's in love with Nick, not Luke.
Yeah. And I think in the recording that she sent to Luke in season 3, like, she says she's ashamed. She says that she loves him, or she says that you'll always have my love. And I think she genuinely means it. Like, I think that she loves Luke, and she'll always love Luke in a way.
Yeah.
Sorry on the cosplays, but
no, it makes sense.
But, like, I think she loves him in a familial sense, or like a deep friendship, but not in that romantic way anymore.
Right.
So
and I think she would, if she could choose, she would choose to, because she feels guilt and she thinks she's supposed to.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't make that happen in season 4.
I also talked about 407, like on the boat scene with June and Moira. June says he's never gonna forgive me, and I know she's talking about in regards to not bringing Hannah with her. Moira says all these years he's waited for you. So I'm kind of like, is she guilty because feels guilt because he's also, like, remained faithful to June?
Yeah.
And June.
I mean, I think that is true. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and you see, I mean, even on the internet when you're talking to people, that is a common theme. He's waited all this time for her, like she owes it to him, right? And unfortunately, that's not how it works.
No.
And she doesn't owe anybody anything at this point.
I think as gently as she could, I think she tried to break it to Luke, like just in the nicest, kindest way possible that she could, to like give him the opportunity to move on. To find somebody else if you wanted that. But
I think I agree, and I think she was maybe being too gentle, and she should have been a little clearer. Because saying like you'll always have my love. I understand if you need more than that. I think that probably should have been a little more like, you should move on,
Yeah.
But maybe she wasn't ready to say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has a lot of guilt when it comes to Luke, definitely. And also, I wanted to correct from the spoiler-free. We kept saying that this episode is called The Other Woman, and I realized it's called The Other Women, which is a notable difference. Didn't mean to make that mistake. I all of our notes, I think, still applied about the name, but I also think that maybe it's just as a greater. I think she's feeling guilt and thinking about all the other women that she's hurt throughout her life, including Annie. And in this episode, you see Alma and the other handmaids who've been, they've had their wrists burned on the stove. And who else? Rita even gets hit because of June's like attitude to Serena. I imagine there are a lot more women that could even be listed.
I have when Luke is finishing his monologue to June after trying to convince her that everything's going to be fine. After yelling to Annie on the phone, he gives her a hug, and you see June, her expression is a little doubtful, of what's going on. And that reminded me of, in the past episode when Nick tells her they made contact and, they're kind of saying goodbye. He tells her, that it's best for her to leave, and then they go hug. She kind of keeps her eyes open the same way, but towards the end, you can see that she gives in. So there's that difference in the intimacy between the both of them.
I wrote down that, so I think Yulia was talking earlier about like the concept of like identity within this episode, and the way that Aunt Lydia talks about the concept of June versus Offred reminded me of the season 4 finale.
Well, that didn't take long.
Try not to go there first.
Sorry, guys.
I'm pretty sure it's like the finale of season 4 is just like summary of all the previous seasons, like best of season 1, 2, 4.
So it reminds me of when Fred talks about missing Offred. And like he asks like, oh, may I call you June? Like, so it's just this idea of like in Gilead, they try to separate like your identity, and like you have to become this new identity. So that reminded me of.
And also, when she says to Aunt Lydia, like, my name, she says that to Fred too. Like, and my name's always been June.
Yeah.
And I would say that 410 is extremely similar to this episode, because it's the next time that she's fighting June versus Offred. Like, who am I? I need to decide if I'm June or if I'm Offred. And, probably it's some combination therein, but I think that they're very similar in that way. And
we also have this same pattern with Moira and Ruby. I mean, had a struggle with finding her Moira identity back, and
she called herself Ruby.
She named herself Ruby. And then we have Moira, like in episode 2, is it 2-9, when they visit Canada, when she totally goes the other way, says, my name is not Ruby, I'm Moira. So this is when she destroys this, fully takes back Moira and destroys her Ruby side.
Yeah.
And also interesting is with Janine, when she needed to become off Daniel and she was just off Warren.
Oh my God, I know.
And she struggled so much with this change, and this is so fucked up. I mean, think about it, like
why did they change their names on top of everything else and make them continually lose their no identity? Like, that
because
is so
property. That's how
their property. Yeah.
It's so infuriating me, this OBS system. We never hear how that's like, who creates that, right? I just want to make sure they die in the end.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant though, also, that it's it's spelled off. Well, it's not spelled off Fred, but it basically is like off Fred when he's killed. Right?
Like, it's like a belonging thing.
And I don't, they didn't even think about that, because Margaret Atwood is the one that came up with this naming system, but boy, did it work out nicely.
Oh, and then she offs Fred.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. I just like Nick's sadness. This whole, it's this episode and the next couple, I guess. Yeah, Nick's sadness over June being gone, right? Like, these are scenes that are very interesting to me. They're like heartbreaking, but I like to watch them sometimes, because he's just like, in this scene and in the scene where she's burning the letters, he's just like looking in her eyes, like searching like deeply for this June that for June that he's been with for 2 months at the Globe, and he knows so well and he loves so much, and he cannot like locate her in her eyes and her body, and it's just like terrifying to him. It's so terrifying to him that he goes to Serena and does the dumbest thing ever, and asks her to take her to a mental health doctor, which is the right thing to do, obviously, but he just wasn't thinking, oh right, Serena doesn't give a shit about anything except being miserable and making sure everyone else is miserable.
And then that tips Serena off to what she was probably already thinking. She's like, that was the nail in the coffin. She's like, Probably
just-
had something to do with
you
her being
just-
gone.
Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
these scenes, I don't know, for me maybe are where I see more than any how much he cares about her and how distraught he is that he can't find or see like June in her right now, and that she's like really gone. And that like mental health doctor, I'm pretty sure Gilead is not employing any mental health doctors.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
he's
it's true.
just-
But he was panicking, you
He's
know,
so desperate. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna lose her. I can't lose
Yeah.
her. And it's very sweet.
I mean, it's also not just June, but also their baby. I think.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
When Serena went into June's room and was touching her belly, it made me like think like, oh, I wonder if Nick did this with her at the Boston Globe. Obviously, it wouldn't be creepy like Serena,
No,
but
right. Yeah, if
I
I
just-
may, if I may insult, if I may criticize the show, like you're saying,
Yes.
you could have given us Nick feeling the baby kicking.
Come on.
Big miss there. If it's in the outtakes somewhere, just slip it
Yes.
back in there and we'll forgive you.
Send it to us.
Send it to us.
Just give us
Yeah.
a flashback
You
of
can
it.
find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's still very early, isn't it? Like,
I don't
like
know. The
I
timeline
wonder,
on the
like,
show.
yeah, when she gets to Boston Globe, she says she's 5 weeks pregnant, right?
Mhm.
Then at the beginning of 2-3,
Yeah.
she said she's been 2 months in the Boston Globe.
Right, so it's just a little over
But
3
then
months.
Serena says 92 days she's
Yeah.
been gone. So then
Yeah.
that's over 3 months plus. So we're getting into our 5th month here,
I mean,
So
yeah. If it's
feeling
like
the
this,
baby.
then okay, 5th month I can see that. But
Yeah,
if it's just
definitely
92 days in like the whole, like the
Yeah, well,
because-
I think she means like you've been gone from my clutches for 92 days.
yeah.
So I couldn't feel
But
your
so was she
womb,
like
my
1
womb.
month again in the Red Center? Or
I don't know, but I
Let's not
They
do a
don't say.
timeline thing. because-
Sorry.
Well, she is noticeably pregnant, so I'd put her at 5 months because I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
yeah. Let's okay.
Why
then,
not?
Then I can say okay. Yeah, I can accept that she feels. Okay.
When you said that, also it reminded me June's belly, like the way that she crawls into bed holding June's belly. Well, two things. The Luke scene that we just saw recently, isn't he doing the same thing under the sheets?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
And the
Yeah.
script note
Mhm.
said that he's touching the baby like absently or something. It really doesn't look like that. He looks caring. And then but what I was thinking when you're saying that is when McKenna Grace, I'm sorry, who's amazing. Mrs. Keyes, Esther, at the farmhouse in season 4, after June's encouraged her to murder her rapist, she crawls into bed behind June and spoons June.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I
And
think
they
so.
have this whole moment that's somehow much nicer than this moment with
Yeah.
Serena. The post-murder, the post-teenage murder cuddle, I prefer to this one.
it's actually a beautiful scene. Actually,
It is.
briefly,
Like,
I mean,
Yeah.
covered in blood, but it was a beautiful bonding moment for both of them.
show is good at stuff like that.
We were talking about Luke earlier, like especially his way of always finding optimism, even in the
Darkest
coolest
of
or
times.
yeah. And like it never came to mind until now, but I think like he's really a good example of toxic optimism, actually.
Yeah. I'd never heard that term before, but
Yeah,
that is
it's like
very fitting.
if you forcefully try to make everything positive, like even if you try to like even if someone is feeling really down and stressed out, and you just go up to this person and try to and tell him, oh, don't
Everything's
think about it
okay.
too much. Yeah, everything's okay. And it just can
Well,
be
it
like
invalidates
toxic.
and minimizes how
Yeah.
you're feeling.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
because you're minimizing somebody's experience. You're invalidating their feelings.
Right, which he does, throughout
Yeah.
season 4. But and that he does
But
say,
also in this scene when June's like kind of feels guilty about wrecking Luke's marriage and being the other woman, and he says, oh no, don't think about her, like we are
She's
together now.
nothing.
Everything, yeah, like
He doesn't matter.
yeah.
Well, and
It-
he yells at her. When he's yelling at Annie on the voicemail, he yells "Move on," which is his tagline. So it's there's a lot of similarities, I think.
Doing this rewatch, I noticed this the first time I watched it, but since I'm paying more attention now, how, and obviously I've seen the whole show, how obvious these last 2 episodes were hinting that June's marriage was not ideally what she should have done. First with, what we see with her mom in the past episode, and what we see how she feels. Like, this whole episode is about guilt, about the guilt that she feels, and the flashback that they used to signify that is, the fact that, she met with Annie and all that happened with Annie. So I think, the show's showing you that for a reason. Sometimes people don't pick on that, but they could have chosen something else, and they just chose to show us that. And one of the most guilt-filled episodes, and we see her guilt all throughout all the seasons, maybe not so much in season 3, but she goes back to that guilt that she pushes down in season 4. So there's also that parallel there as well.
Yeah, I also wrote, because I was reflecting on that Omar was the first death that I'm not going to say she caused, but like her actions contributed towards it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking about how, like, in season 3, there was Hannah's Martha, there was Mrs. Lauren, there was a few other people. Of Matthew, yes. So, and you can just kind of see that June becomes, I guess, hardened in a way, or less sensitive maybe to their deaths, or maybe she just pushes down that guilt. But in this episode, I mean, obviously that guilt was at the top of her mind. So it's just, it's interesting to see her transformation. Like, I'm sure part of her had to suppress some of that guilt just to survive.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
On the topic of their marriage, which we see a little more of in this episode, and in the last episode, this was also a focus because Holly, her mom, says, "I don't think you should marry him. I don't think you should settle." And in the future, we see Moira flashback saying, "I don't think you should marry him, June." And June herself has doubts that we see in season 4. So, and now, and I think that the show gave us so many signs throughout the seasons, just saying that their relationship was not the right one for June. Luke is not malicious, but he's not a great fit for June. And
No, she questions it in the book as well.
Would we have made it? I don't even know if we would make it.
And that's obviously why they're putting it in the show, because it's a theme kind of in the book.
Yeah.
Where she's questioning, she has those thoughts.
Like, so many flashbacks show us a lot of doubt about that topic. And then obviously when she gets back to Canada, we see that
looks kind of over.
So I have, when Aunt Lydia said, "Wonderful, God will certainly bless this house with peace," I thought that was pretty funny because their house is the most unpeaceful place ever, and it ends up with Serena burning it to the ground. I enjoyed that. Foreshadowing. That was all. What you got, Yulia?
I had also a note on the baby showers, because we get to see another Serena baby shower in season 4.
Oh yeah.
Which is not really what she expected for her own child's baby shower. Yeah.
That's right.
As joyous as she is in this one, as pissed and desperate she's in the one we see in season 4. Where she's just sitting with Fred, her most beloved husband.
Most beloved.
Unwrapping all those nice presents from, I don't know.
Well, some of them were
followers.
like followers. Whereas there was like little like commander's outfit.
Oh, I still hate that.
So creepy.
Yeah, but the only real Gilead present she gets is from Naomi, right? When she comes visit, she brings her something for the baby as well.
I think she brought in a few gifts from
a few gifts. You're right.
June has actually gets something of a baby shower from her friends, right?
Oh yeah.
After she thought she was
she
gonna
died.
die.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's episode 6 of season 2.
Yeah.
When she's back, and she lets her sleep in the sitting room and kind of bonds a little with her, and invites the handmaids over.
Yeah, because she realized she pushed her to the edge.
Mhm.
Now she's like, oh, I'm just gonna let you have lunches with friends, and
They should have made a shame circle with Serena. Put her in the middle. That's your fault. Your fault.
they really should have.
The fact that she could endanger her baby the way she did in that.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't care.
She sucks.
Yes, she does. But Yvonne, you're awesome and we love you.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're talking about the character here. Always.
Those are funny when June repeats we've been saying good weather like a million times, when I feel like Canada always has really shitty weather in this show because they're always winter.
It's always fall or winter. Yeah, it's always fall or winter.
And it's been rainy for the past couple episodes too. So anything else, you guys?
Well,
there was the Rita Serena dynamic when Serena slaps Rita, like, obviously she mistreated her. I don't think that was the first or the last time. But then when we get to season 4, we see that dynamic between them, kind of Rita feels like, not that she owes something to Serena, but I've always asked myself, like, why would she go see her? It's that toxic kind of relationship, when,
Stockholm syndrome, I think.
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So I think,
but I don't like it
that.
either. It makes me uncomfortable. And I feel like, I think even Amanda Brugel said in an interview recently that she could see Rita working with Serena and helping her like raise her baby. And that bothers me.
Yeah.
I could see it too. Like I can see that happening. And
I could just see her take the baby from Serena and raise it as her own, not with Serena.
That is a thing I'd like to see. Yes.
Yeah. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
That would be an acceptable scenario.
Yeah.
I would love that so much.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else?
I did a really, really nice research on the topic I'm going to talk about now.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Pigs.
Yes. The episode or the animal?
The animal.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Of course, the animal. Yeah, because there's so many, like, a lot of talk about pigs in, like, not just this episode, but like overall and also in the future. For example, it starts out with June. Maybe it was the first episode when she compares herself with, not just herself, but also the handmaids in general, with prized pigs. We get June when she's in this butcher truck with this pig carcasses, which I saw like as a nod of, okay, there are these dead pigs, so maybe this is kind of this is the end for June being a handmaid. So like her handmaid identity is going to end here.
Yeah. That would have been nice.
Yeah, we had in this episode we had this pig ball talk.
Yeah, the pig and the pink ball. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she would like to have such a ball because
she said that.
Yeah, so she's back to be a prized pig. She sees herself in this pig role again. Obviously, in season 4, we have the whole episode called Pigs.
Yes.
Which can be named after the animal we see. I think it was called Mr. Darcy, right?
Yeah, it was.
Mr. Darcy, yeah.
But also, of course, they mean the bad people like this.
Right. They're double entendres.
Yeah. And so if you look at this analogy of pigs and thinking about what like the animal pig as a symbol means for different cultures and different ways of looking at it. So usually a pig is kind of a dirty animal, even though they're not really dirty, but it's seen as something dirty.
That's how they're viewed, yes.
Yeah, but domesticated pigs are also a symbol of luck, and are given as prize. So, but in the Bible, the pig is actually a very, very unholy animal. That's why, like, Jews are not eating pigs. So I kind of thought it was really, really interesting why they use this symbolism of pigs a lot. And
in Celtic symbolism, it also can mean divine feminine.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, I was really going down the rabbit hole.
I love the rabbit hole. I love the pig rabbit hole.
It's and pigs are like humans, kind of. That we're like omnivores, so we can eat everything.
Yeah.
So it's really great that they kind of use this thread through the seasons.
That they continue throughout all of them. That's a great note. I had not put that together, despite there being an episode called Pigs and us talking about the pig story. I love that. Good rabbit hole about pigs.
So I have this thing with the show presenting June's name. We know in the book we don't find out Offred's real name, but the show does give us her name. And it's interesting to me that the first episode is called Offred, and we see, her journey as Offred, like how she gets to the Waterford house when she gets captured, like how she quote unquote becomes Offred.
Right.
And then season 2, episode 1, it's called June. And we see a little bit more of maybe what made June, or throughout the whole season we have deeper flashbacks of her mindset before Gilead and during Gilead, and then you see how she's kind of like waving one between the other, which for me they're the same person, but in this precise episode there's that whole June versus Offred situation, especially with Aunt Lydia's conversation when she brings her to see Omer's body.
And it's a recurring theme, June versus Offred, like, in the finale. Go ahead.
Yeah. But in this episode, though, what I liked was at the beginning, and I know I said it, when she's all chained up to the bed and her lips are all dry and stuff, and she looks like a psychopath, because this is what Elizabeth Moss does so well.
She's amazing.
She stands up to Lydia.
Actually, wait, side note. Dave is like, he told one of our friends, I don't know, like, what's fucked up about Kate, but her favorite scenes are rewatching Elizabeth Moss going, like, insane. Like, when she's screaming at Tuello.
Like, who doesn't?
You're right. I do love that shit, and I don't apologize for it. She's amazing.
She's great. She does. And you know what's funny to me?
Amazing.
Elizabeth Moss is this girl next door. I think she's beautiful. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and she has this smile that lights up a freaking room. And she plays the psychotic, like, down to a T. So in this episode, what really caught my attention is I really liked at the beginning how we see kind of June in season 3 and season 4, like that June, like all rebel June, I don't give a shit. She's chained to the bed looking like a psychopath, her lips are chapped, she gets up in Lydia's face and tells her, like, my fucking name, and Lydia's looking at her like, okay, sure. Like, there's also a change throughout the seasons, because in season 4 she's like, I want you to capture her and bring her to me. So I know Lydia, kind of resents her for not being able to put her in her place. There's that dynamic there. But throughout the whole episode, you see her rebelling. You see her like not giving a shit. When she gets back to the Waterford house and they're going to take her to the room, she looks back and she's like, I know where it is. Don't take me to my room.
No, she's still full agent.
Then you slowly see how Gilead or how Aunt Lydia break her in one episode. Then we see how they try to break her through season 3 and season 4. But in this episode, it was just one episode, how she literally from June goes back to Offred, which for me was really impressive, because at the end, she is completely turned into Offred. And I think it had to do with that dialogue that Aunt Lydia tells her, June is the one that's at fault. June doesn't have the opportunity. June's going to give birth and then she's going to die in the colonies. But Offred has an opportunity. Like, if you submit and you obey, you're going to be a good girl. If you don't, you're going to be the adulterer. Like, that's why you're here, because you sinned. And it's how they just break that apart when in the end, she's the same person, In season 4, I think that's her mindset. Like, trying to realize who she is, when in reality, June and Offred are the same person, So that's what she tells Fred. I miss her strength, because she had to be strong, even though June was strong, because of Gilead. If Gilead wouldn't have happened, she would have stayed her normal self. But because of
I don't
Gilead,
think she would have.
had
I
to
don't think
become-
she was strong. Like, I don't think she would have been strong. She had the potential within her, but I think that it took Gilead to bring that out. Which,
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what
Yeah.
I meant. Like, it pushed her to be who she was, because
Right.
we see hints of that. But this episode really plays on that, and it also plays.
I love how it ends with Nick yelling like June at her, and he
We've
can't
been
get her
sent good
'cause she's
weather.
gone. Yeah. So
We've
I
been
mean,
sent good
it's
weather.
literally like ending it on a note of June's gone, right?
June's gone, yeah, and it's Offred, and then obviously we see how she becomes.
She gets back.
She goes back, but also talking about guilt in the episode, that's what they use to break her, because a lot of people question her choices, which I understand where she's coming from, whether I agree with them or not.
Mhm.
But the flashback, this is where we get the flashback of the whole Annie situation, which is Book's wife, and we clearly see that she feels guilty about that whole thing. It's
Yeah.
not really clear. I just like the parallel that this whole episode is about guilt, and that's the flashback that they used just to see how she felt about that. And she says, there's a voiceover that she does, I've done something so big that I can't even, I feel shameless. And it just goes back to that situation in her life, which is what made her a handmaid, actually.
And it's called Other Women, right? Not Other Woman.
Mhm.
So I
Other
mean,
women.
you explore a lot of other women in this episode that she's hurt. She's hurt. She didn't hurt Offland, but it's included in the episode. She hurt Annie. She hurt Omar's wife. It's multiple, and then it's her also obviously against Offred versus June, and it's also her against Serena and Lydia, and it's all these other women that are in many cases hurt by her, or at least opposing her. It's just like fascinating the way that they put it all together.
Also, the situation with Annie is what not pushed her, but caused her to be a handmaid.
Right.
And what she did was what caused Omar's wife to become a handmaid, and basically have the same thing that happened to June happen to the wife.
Right.
They took her child and they made her a handmaid.
After she
So
said that
it's-
was her worst case scenario, that's what they threatened us with, being a handmaid. And I don't know how you would let that
Exactly.
happen. I don't know how you would, they would never take my child from me. I would die first, right? And
Yep.
so now you learn Heather is now, yeah.
A handmaid.
It's a brilliant
So-
show. Heartbreaking. Brilliant.
But the progress of how she deals with guilt is also interesting to me, because she was devastated over Omar, which, I mean, I don't think she's not devastated by the pain that she's caused. I think she carries it deeply within herself, but she had to harden herself in order to fight Gilead, So I
It's
think
like the soup scene that she said in an interview. She said, like, there's nothing she can do. She has to harden herself, and just like when the the other handmaid's hands are being burnt in episode 2-1, and she said, like, seeing it on screen was like chilling, but when I was in the moment, I'm just like, June, I have to like compartmentalize. There's nothing I can do about it. I have to eat my soup and let them get their hands burnt.
that's fucked up.
Okay, I think that's a wrap on our deep dive into season 2, episode 4 of The Handmaid's Tale. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next week when we talk about season 1, episode 5.
Bye.
Bye.
I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.